When I was 15, I saved the last bite of cake for my birthday just so my little sister could have it. She was 6, sobbing that she'd dropped her piece, and I remember my mother beaming at me like I had just done something heroic. "You're such a good sister," she said. "You always know how to share." That was the first time I learned what it meant to give up something for someone else's comfort, and apparently, it became a lesson my parents would never let me unlearn. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. Fast forward a decade and a half, and I had grown into the same kind of daughter they'd always counted on. Quiet, dependable, and self-sufficient. I worked long hours at a consulting firm in the city, budgeting every dollar, taking freelance gigs on the side, skipping luxuries my friends never thought twice about. Not because I had to, but because I wanted a safety net no one else could pull from. My emergency fund was more than just money. It was my shield, my quiet rebellion against the chaos I grew up in. I didn't talk much about it, but during a rare family dinner last year, the topic of finances came up. My dad complained about rising bills. Natalie, my younger sister, groaned about the cost of mental health days, and my mom sighed about how hard it was to juggle everything. That night, almost by accident, I mentioned how I'd managed to save a few thousand in case of emergencies. My dad raised his brows in approval, and Natalie scoffed, "Must be nice to have it easy." Easy. They had no idea how many nights I cried silently in a one-bedroom apartment, clutching ramen and wondering if working myself numb was worth it. But I didn't say that. I just smiled and changed the subject. Weeks passed, and life continued as usual, until the emergency happened. But it wasn't mine. It started with a string of Instagram stories. Natalie at an upscale spa resort 2 hours away, wrapped in a white robe, sipping cucumber water, receiving back-to-back treatments, posing beside champagne towers and infinity pools. The kind of weekend that costs more than my entire monthly rent. She didn't tag me, of course, but our cousin forwarded the story with a laughing emoji and said, "Didn't know you were bankrolling her now." My stomach dropped. I opened my bank app instantly. My emergency fund had been drained. $2,500. Gone. My first instinct was disbelief. I stared at the screen, refreshing it like a madwoman. It had to be an error. Maybe a glitch. Maybe someone had hacked it. I called the bank and waited on hold for over an hour, my heart pounding the entire time. When I finally got through, the woman on the other end said the words that made my skin go cold. Yes, the withdrawal was authorized in branch. Signature verified. Matching ID. My voice trembled, but I didn't authorize it. She hesitated and then said something that changed everything. It was a joint account, authorized by one of the listed holders. That's when the realization slammed into me like a car crash. Years ago, when I first opened that account, I had put my parents on as backup signers, just in case anything ever happened to me. I never imagined they'd actually use that access. I drove home that night, rage and heartbreak churning inside me like a storm. I didn't even call. I just walked through the door and found them. Mom on the couch watching her true crime drama, Dad on the back porch having a beer. Natalie was lounging in her usual spot, scrolling through her phone, looking freshly relaxed and suspiciously tan. "I need to talk to you," I said, forcing my voice to stay level. My mom looked up. "Oh, hey, sweetie. You should have told us you were coming. Want some tea?" "I want to know why $2,500 is missing from my emergency fund," I said. The room went still. My dad stood up slowly. "Okay, let's not make a big thing out of this." I stared at him. "You took my money." "We didn't take it," my mother chimed in, standing now, smoothing her sweater like she was preparing for a speech. "We borrowed it. For Natalie. Natalie didn't even look up from her phone. Technically, it was an early birthday gift." I blinked. A spa day is not an emergency. "She was having a mental health spiral," my mom said defensively. "You know how she gets. We thought it would help." "You thought my emergency fund, money I've worked years for, should pay for your daughter's relaxation getaway?" "She's your sister," my dad said, like that was supposed to make it okay. "No," I said, my voice cold now. "She's your favorite." The silence was heavier this time. It was the kind that dared anyone to deny what we all knew was true. Natalie stood, finally meeting my eyes. God, it's not like you're broke. You're always bragging about your savings. I stepped back, stunned. I never bragged. I struggled. I sacrificed. I didn't have to help you, but I did. And this is how you repay me? My mom sighed and said the thing that shattered whatever bond I still believed we had. It's just money, honey. Don't be so dramatic. That sentence echoed in my brain like a warning bell. Just money. As if the years I'd spent building my independence could be casually dismissed. As if my boundaries, my labor, my sanity, they were all just a piggy bank they could crack open whenever Natalie was feeling low. I left that night without another word, and something in me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. They had used my silence for years, my willingness to keep the peace, to forgive, to carry weight that wasn't mine. But now, the very thing they'd stolen wasn't just money. It was the final ounce of trust I had in them, and they could never afford what came next. The next morning, my inbox had 2 unread messages. One from my mom with the subject line, "Let's not blow this up," and another from Natalie which just said, "Chill." No apology, no remorse, just damage control disguised as concern. For a week, I said nothing. No texts, no calls. I didn't block them. I wanted them to wonder, to stew in silence, unsure of how far I might go. I wasn't being cruel. I was being heard, finally, in the only language they seemed to understand: absence. But I wasn't done. I started slowly. First, I removed them from all my bank accounts. I walked into the branch, stared the teller in the eye, and asked her how to make sure no one could ever touch my money but me. She looked over the old forms and confirmed what I suspected. My parents had been dormant signers for years, and removing them would take just 1 form and 2 signatures. I signed without hesitation. Then I called a lawyer, not because I planned to sue, but because I wanted legal clarity. I learned that while what they did wasn't criminal, it was deeply unethical. And I wanted it documented, in writing. I had the bank provide a detailed transaction history, and my lawyer drafted a letter addressed to my parents, outlining the unauthorized withdrawal, the breach of trust, and stating that any further financial interference would be considered grounds for legal action. I mailed it certified. I wanted them to sign for it, to feel it. Then came the part they weren't expecting. I told the truth. It started with my aunt, who'd always liked to gossip but never sided blindly with my parents. I met her for coffee and dropped a quiet bomb. They took my emergency fund to pay for Natalie's spa weekend. Her eyes widened. They what? I have proof. The bank, the withdrawal, everything. Within days, the story had spread across the family like wildfire. Cousins texted me outraged. My mom's sister called and apologized on their behalf, embarrassed beyond words. But the worst part for them? My dad's oldest brother, Uncle Ravi, heard about it too. He was the one who'd helped fund my college scholarship. He called me and said, "They took your hard-earned money to spoil Natalie. I'm done helping them. Their safety net? Gone. Their reputation? Tarnished. Their golden child?" Silently furious that her massage now came with family-wide side eyes and judgment. But it wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about reclaiming my dignity. A month later, I received a handwritten letter from my mother. Her tone was different this time, less defensive, more humbled. She wrote about how they'd failed me, how they'd always assumed I'd be fine, how they never realized they were treating my strength as permission to take me for granted. "We didn't think we were hurting you," she wrote, "but that's not an excuse. You trusted us, and we used you. It wasn't perfect. It didn't fix everything, but it was something." I wrote back with honesty. I told her I forgave her, but I wasn't coming back. Not in the same way. Not for holidays where I'm expected to clean and cook while Natalie floats in like a princess. Not for birthdays where I'm given a $25 gift card while she unwraps spa vouchers and weekend retreats. I told her I'd be polite but distant, cordial but guarded. She had spent years treating me like the safety net. Now she'd have to learn to stand without it. The next family dinner was tense. Natalie refused to meet my eyes. My dad said little. My mom tried to act like things were normal, but the dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the easy daughter anymore. I wasn't the one they could rely on without reciprocation. I was the woman who'd learned her value and charged interest on stolen silence. And funny enough, they haven't touched my boundaries since. Natalie now pays for her own therapy and spa sessions. My parents no longer ask about my savings or offer unsolicited financial advice. And I rebuilt my emergency fund, dollar by dollar, with my name, and only my name, on every account. They taught me how to share. But now I've learned how to protect, because family isn't just about blood, it's about respect. And once that's gone, you can't afford the cost of silence.